Oh, there it is. Oh, God.
Off the shot on each side. Big elbow.
And it's all over. What's up, everybody? Laura Sanko here. And, we're halfway through 2022, and I was feeling a little sentimental today. I thought, you know what? Let's take a look at some of the amazing things we saw last year in the UFC 2021. So I got my popcorn out. I have a drink ready, non-sponsored drink. And I'm excited to watch some of these fights. These are three of my favorite fights from last year. We'll see if we can top them this year. We've got some good candidates already, but let's take a look at my three favorite fights from 2021. All right, Reyes versus Prochazka. What an incredible fight. All right, before we even start this, I'm going to pause it. Part of what you have to set up here is the context of this fight. So unless you had been watching Rizin, most people didn't really know who Yuri Prochazka was at this point. He'd had one fight in the UFC. He did knock out Volkan Oezdemir. It was a big win for him. But, first fight in the UFC, you get a big win. It is a big moment, but you still have a lot of proving to do. So this was just his second fight in the UFC, still very much an unknown entity for a lot of people. Now, on the flip side of that coin, you got Dominic Reyes, who he kind of hit a little bit of a bumpy point in his career, but he's still one of the best athletes in the entire division. Still the guy who gave John Jones his toughest fight to date, arguably, and was ranked number 3 at the time. So you've got this unknown guy on this ridiculous finishing streak, but it's in another organization. So not everybody who's a UFC fan is necessarily a fan of Rizin. I was lucky enough to see a lot of the good stuff he was doing before he came over to the UFC, so I kind of knew what we were in for. And knowing that, I knew what we were in for this night. This was actually, I worked this event, so it was pretty cool to see this in person. So let's take a look.
Conventional approach. Oh, nice.
Early in this fight, you could tell both of these guys use their length so well. A lot of times you'll have tall fighters that don't really fully lean into the length that they have. Reyes trying to make this a grappling match whenever he could, and did manage to get Yuri down. Yuri, of course, was able to get back up. But man, every time these two would get into the pocket, okay, I have to pause this again. Sorry, mid-flurry. One of the things that makes Yuri Prochazka so incredibly special is his volume. He throws over 7 significant strikes a minute, which is the UFC average is just a little bit over 3. So for him to have over 7 is truly, I know I speak in hyperbole a lot, we all do when we're analysts, but it really is, he is an outlier in terms of the volume that he puts out there. But then you couple that with the fact that he connects with over 55% of his strikes. Think about that. Not only is he pouring out this ridiculous amount of volume, and it's everything too. It's coming at you from all different angles. It's punches, it's kicks, it's knees, it's elbows, and in no particular order, by the way. Couple that with the fact that he's landing all of them. That's why this guy is on such a ridiculous winning streak and such a ridiculous finishing streak. And of course, we know now that he's the champion. Of course, we didn't know that at the time, though, so this was still a very special fight nonetheless. But what we're seeing here and what's really starting to overwhelm Dominic Reyes is that volume and the accuracy combined with the volume. God, it's just so cool. And the way he kind of dips into those strikes, kind of looks like he's level changing. You can never quite tell where he's coming from. But man, Reyes was cracking back.
What a tremendous first round of action. Wow.
There's just never a moment where he takes his foot off and lets you reset. A lot of fighters need that time to okay, we're gonna have a combination, punch, and then we go reset. But round 2, Dominic Reyes was like, no, not, I'm here.
He is here to win this fight.
So tough. But the timing and the speed of Yuri Prochazka is just, it's something special.
Now he's trying to sense the angle. Reyes still firing back.
He is covered in blood right now.
He's just right in your face. And he's willing to take one too. That's the thing, is you have to have the mentality. He's shooting. Yuri Prochazka, I forgot he did this. That's right, because then Dominic gets the guillotine, which was actually, I'm remembering now, this was deep. Very deep. He does have the arm in. The only thing here, actually, I'm gonna pause this right here. So I'm pausing at the above angle of this guillotine. While this is a good guillotine, it's not a perfect guillotine. Most are not in an MMA fight. But one of the things that you'll see Dominic do in just a second, if I remember right, is he starts to kind of post on the hips and push away. When you're on a guillotine, it feels like that's what you want to do. You feel like you're trying to like pull your opponent's head off. It's really not what you want to do. More than anything, you want to like crunch them. So when you see the perfect guillotine, like Brian Ortega's guillotine, there's the leg over the back, and that actually allows you to pull the shoulder in, pull the head in, and compress your opponent, rather than the idea that like, oh, I have their neck and I'm trying to lean back and pull their head off. It's kind of the opposite.
He's very strong, and Prohaska just took it. The man is wild.
Yeah, he's popping out.
Yeah, he's starting to come out here.
Now. He's not under there. Although for Prohaska, this is where that hairstyle.
Gotta get the hair out.
And Paul mentions this on the broadcast, the hair. This is a funny thing to talk about. So I paused it right as Yuri is getting his head out of this situation. And you can see there, it sounds like a stupid thing, but where you put your hair when you have long hair, where you put the collection of your hair really, really matters in a fight, like a lot. And it was to the point where for this last fight against Glover Teixeira, he actually intentionally made his, I don't know if he has a name for it, but he actually made his braid a lot thinner and more floppy. Like the one he has in this fight is really thick and hard. And in his other one, or in his fight against Glover, he intentionally made it thinner and a little bit looser so that he didn't get stuck in these situations. But girls will tell you like where you put your braids, or if you have your braids coming together and in some sort of bun, matters a lot, specifically for chokes and specifically guillotines. Because if it's at the top of your head, just imagine there's like this thing blocking you from being able to pop your head up. But he does get his head out right there. His ground and pound is something else too. He's just like, he's just able to generate power from anywhere. Oh, kick. I love how he does that giant level change and then comes back up. Oh, oh, there it is. Oh, God.
Comes over with the right elbow, boom, spins
misses with the
connects
right,
with the point.
spins and connects with the left, and Dominic Reyes is in the shadow realm. Crazy fight, such a good fight. All right, number 2, we got Volkanovski versus Ortega. Oh, this is a good one. All right, I gotta set this one up too. So coming into this fight, obviously Volkanovski was coming off of the 2 Max fights where he looked great. But there was still a lot of like chatter around, you know, did he really beat Max, especially the second fight? There was some controversy there. On the flip side of it, you've got Brian Ortega, who's coming off of his unbelievably good performance against Korean Zombie. We saw a level out of Brian Ortega that was unbelievable in that fight. It was like he went away and not just grabbed, you know, a couple of tools. He left with the entire Home Depot store in his pocket, because when he fought Chan Sung Jung, all of a sudden he had ridiculous range management and boxing and, you know, the elbows, all of it. He was really putting it together. And as we know, of course, he is one of the biggest submission threats in the featherweight division. I would say probably the biggest submission threat in the featherweight division. And while Volkanovski had been and is still on a ridiculous run, fighting the Maxes of the world, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes, those guys are predominantly strikers with some wrestling mixed in. None of them are huge submission threats. So this fight was a legitimate, like, okay, let's test a different aspect of Alex Volkanovski's game. And for Brian Ortega, this is a huge opportunity for him to come in and upset the apple cart with, I mean, he's just, the thing about Brian Ortega is he has a real danger factor. And that's one of the things, if you guys watch my breakdown videos, I have talked about, and I will continue to always talk about, is a danger factor. It's not just enough to be good in every category. It's like, are you dangerous in every category? And for Brian Ortega, he's exceptionally dangerous on the ground and becoming very dangerous on the feet as well. All right, let's take a look at this fight.
Doing a good job of checking these leg kicks.
Yeah, Volkanovski landing that leg kick early. But Brian Ortega, man, that's what we're talking about, the boxing. That crackback was so good. But
They start.
Okay. All right. I gotta pause it. Okay. So before we get to the the guillotine, the mounted guillotine attempt, what I love is the way that Brian Ortega was so quick to catch to catch the kick and come off it with a punch. You know for a fact that he and his team were training that over and over and over in the lead up to this fight because of the way he was able to just do it. They knew that kick would be there. Volkanovski loves to throw those low leg kicks. Those kicks are traditionally harder to catch. He threw that one a little bit higher. Ortega caught it, threw the punch at the same time, and got the knockdown. Just beautiful. Really, really beautiful. And right now he is on top of Alex Volkanovski in one of the deepest guillotines. Not just any guillotine. This is a Brian Ortega guillotine. A mounted Brian Ortega guillotine. His head is purple. Blue. Okay. Hold on. I gotta pause it again. Sorry. When I watched this, I can't remember. It must have been for a breakdown or something I did. I remember counting how long he was deep in that guillotine, because the thing is, Brian Ortega had that cinched up the second he was on it. And Volkanovski was in that deep guillotine for over 15 seconds, which I know does not sound that long. And I was like, oh, I could hold my breath for 15 seconds. It's a different deal entirely. It's not just your breath, it's the blood that you are trying to feed your brain with, being able to get there. And for him to be able to survive that, mounted like that, because the leverage on a mounted guillotine, especially when there's no arm, the leverage on a mounted guillotine is just, you know, when I said before in the Reyes video, you are trying to contract your opponent. In a mounted guillotine, there's much more of a feeling like your head's gonna pop off, honestly. And man, just ridiculous. I mean, Ortega had his hips controlled, had everything, and Volkanovski was just so tough. He's out, gives up his back, turns in, looking for deep half. Almost gets into another guillotine. Oh, and then this, I know what's coming. Round 3 was just crazy, man. Volkanovski landed some nasty ground and pound. I think in a second, Brian's gonna look for a triangle here, if I remember right. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's so fast with that. It's just crazy. I can't see him triangle really that fast. It's in. He's got the angle. Almost goes mounted with it. And this is Brian's, this is why he's named T-City, Triangle City. But Volkanovski able to base out. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. And then I think this, yes. Okay, so this is the round. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to stop counting because I remember this was 30 plus strikes to end this round. And Brian Ortega survived it. God, I probably would have stopped the fight, honestly. But that's what I'm not refereeing. Good on you, Herb. Round 4. Brian looking for a takedown here. Beautiful inside trip. Volkanovski's just so good, man. Just so good. Normally, Brian would be able to flip over and get another mounting position, but Volkanovski was smart enough to keep his head pinning Ortega's hips. Now he's just, oh my gosh. Oh! It's just the worst feeling in the world. The people yelling, get up! How tough is Brian Ortega? He was cracking back here too. He's connecting. Oh! Man, when he had to post it up like that, he should have just let something off there. Ortega should have. Now they're back at boxing range.
Yeah, for years to come, that third round, man, was madness.
Oh! Man, this is the thing that's so great about this fight is there was never a moment where Brian Ortega was like, I'm done. I mean, that last flurry was one of the best of the fights. But Alex Volkanovski, so freaking special. And even more special now that we saw him Fight Max for the 3rd time. Absolute masterclass from Alex Volkanovski. That guy's a fucking problem. Excuse the language. Just deserved. He is. He's a problem. Gaethje versus Chandler. Okay, I'm gonna pause it. Anyone who knows anything about fighting knew that this fight was gonna be just a buffet of violence, because it truly does take 2 to tango. And we say that all the time, right? But a lot of times, like, we'll be excited about 2 strikers getting matched up, but really one of the strikers is also like part counter striker, so he'll move and kind of stay on the outside. These guys are in many ways mirrors of each other. Chandler a little bit more offensive in the terms of wrestling. Gaethje a little bit more offensive in terms of those really insane kicks he's got, insanely powerful kicks. But in terms of like just their willingness to like get in the kitchen and start cooking, they're the same person. So when you take someone who is as crazy and as violent as Justin Gaethje and as crazy and as violent as Michael Chandler, and you put them in a cage together, I mean, what are you going to get? You're going to get the fight of the year is what you're going to get. Let's watch it.
Oh, there goes one.
Gaethje looking for those kicks early, but man, round 1, Michael Chandler was not having it. He's like, I'll kick you back, and I'm going to land. Oh, they were just swinging. Justin Gaethje has a ridiculous chin. Ridiculous. He was getting cracked in this first round. Like, this was definitely Chandler's round right here. Oh, but he got him. This was the story of that fight, though. Like, every time you think, oh, one of them has an advantage. Okay, so Gaethje's super rocked right here. Oh. He's such a slobber knocker. I haven't seen this in a while. It's so good. That kick from Gaethje is a story, man. And the uppercuts, bro. Oh, he knocked. Oh, God. I don't know how Michael Chandler survived this. Oh, find a leg. Find a leg and wrap it up. That's what you do.
And before you know it, you can't move right.
Michael Chandler's tasting pennies right now in his mouth. Oh, going to the body. The cardio that it takes to throw everything behind every shot with no thought for defense. Oh my God. No one takes Justin Gaethje down. Oh my God. Okay. All right. That was crazy. I forgot about that. Justin Gaethje has ridiculous takedown defense. Ridiculous. Michael Chandler gets him, gets on his hips, elevates him, but he got a little bit too excited. And that's what happens when you dump people too high and they're really good athletes. You can use the bounce of hitting the canvas to create just enough momentum and spring and space to be able to do exactly what Justin Gaethje did. That was awesome. Now Gaethje has Chandler's back. I mean, the back and forth in this fight was just like every 10 seconds, you were convinced that someone else was going to win this fight. I love Chandler waving him on. Gaethje landing those kicks. Oh, did you see that? I forgot. I missed that the first time too. Chandler, I love it. Chandler like points down to try to get Gaethje to look down and just throws that front. I mean, it didn't like land super flush, but he was having the time of his life in there, even though he was getting, I'm not gonna say beat up. They were both getting beat up. God.
Under 2 minutes. What a fight.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He hurt.
I can't even. Oh, didn't even his hands up. He's just eating it. God, Chandler's face is a mess.
Unofficially in round 3.
Walking forward, hands down, eating it. What a crazy, crazy fight. And congratulations to Justin Gaethje. That's, I mean, man, what an unbelievable display. Fans in this sport get a bad reputation for this supposed love of violence, which I guess it is a love of violence. But to me, the violence is overshadowed by what it takes to put that violence out there, I guess. Like I think that's what we all love about it. It's the mentality, like what does it take to be the type of person where you can be Michael Chandler, where you can be Justin Gaethje and just eat that and return it and never have a moment where you're like, maybe I should quit, maybe I should throw in the towel, maybe I should, kind of lay down and take a few shots and let the referee save me. I mean, I think that's what we love about this. Is we don't like seeing people get hurt. We love the heart and the bravery. And man, we had some good fights in 2021. We've already had some good fights in 2022. So I'm excited to see what this list looks like at the end of the year. Thanks guys for joining me, and keep it locked in right here. I never thought I'd be the person who'd have a channel where I was constantly like, please like and subscribe, but please like and subscribe. It actually does really help me out, helps my sponsor out. And it's fun. I'm enjoying like sharing this channel with you guys. I read all the questions. I try to respond to them when I can. So thank you guys. And we'll bring you more stuff soon. Keep it locked in right here.